All right, we are back. Crazy haired guest over here.
I stuck my finger in the socket.
Remember, guys, like us Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, go on TikTok, Twitter, and Patreon. Always look for these hashtags. Remember, we are Fantasy Football's inside scoop from outside the box. Let's talk about bye weeks again, real quick. Detroit Lions, Houston, Texas, Las Vegas Raiders, and your Tennessee Titans. If you got them in your lineup, get them out. All right. First game here, Minnesota Vikings at the Miami Dolphins. I don't know what to think about Minnesota. They keep on winning, but they're really not that. I don't know. The offense just doesn't go. I mean, it's Cook and Jefferson, Thielen here and there. I think I'm only comfortable starting those two guys, though. I'm starting Kirk Cousins on a weekly basis. I'm looking for another option, to be honest with you. Let's talk about what you think about this Minnesota Vikings team. On the flip side, Dolphins, Tyreek Hill is not questionable anymore. Seems like he's going to play. Waddle's going to play. Mostert's banged up, but seems like he's going to play. Those are the three options that I would think of. I've kind of moved off Gesicki, man. I see him being dropped in a bunch of places. Smythe is getting the love now. Are you seeing the same thing? And obviously, two and not out. It is going to be Skylar Thompson. I don't think that Teddy's going to get cleared as well. So let's talk about Dolphins and how that affects their offense.
Yeah, they're kind of being a little Belichickian with Teddy. They're kind of like making it seem like he's not going to play, but leaving it open that he might. And I believe coach even, by the way, the head coach, I think I might have mentioned this group, looks just like the dude. I think his real name is Nick. Don't know the last name. He's got the black rim glasses. He was on the show The League. He's a comedian.
Yeah, I know you're talking
the
about.
head coach for the Dolphins looks just like this dude. Look up who was on The League. Look at the actors, and you'll be able to see exactly. Maybe Rob could pull up a picture and share the screen. But this dude looks just like the coach, and that makes me like him because that dude was friggin' hilarious, and he's kind of hilarious in stand-up. Stand-up's a hard.
Right, good. Nick Kroll.
Looks just like him. Anyways, but he's being kind of coy with this. But if it is Skylar Thompson, you said you're moving off Gesicki, but we know if you're terrible or a young or a rookie or a third string quarterback, who's your best friend? That's tight end. So I'm not recommending it, but just leaving it out there. You got to have a pretty good arm to really utilize Tyreek Hill. You could hit him short on a screen and hope he breaks one, and he could. You're obviously playing Hill. You're obviously playing Waddle because he's off the injured list as well. I'd stay away from Mostert. I know he had the big game last week. I know you can run on the Vikings, but it wouldn't surprise me if they get Edmonds a little more involved this week and sort of share it because they are going to want to run the ball and play small ball, I think, with Skylar Thompson if he is the quarterback. For the Vikings, yeah, it's Jefferson. Yeah, it's Cook. And I think Irv Smith scores not one, but two touchdowns this week. You write that one down, Rob. Irv Smith, 2 touchdowns this week. I'm going to call that. I think it's going to happen because although Xavier Howard's banged up, I don't even know if he's going to play. The coverage, the secondary is good enough. The cornerbacks are good enough that they're going to make sure that they don't get beat by Justin Jefferson. And they are on the road. Kirk Cousins on the road. It's not a night game, but it's still on the road. I think that if they get close and Cook happens to get stuffed, I think Irv Smith is going to catch 2 touchdowns this week. So if you need a tight end, he's a great flyer for me this week. Very cheap in DFS and somebody that you could put in there and he'll come through for you. But other than that, as you said, you got 4 studs in this one. And that's pretty much all you can do.
All right, let me bring up the picture real quick.
Yeah.
I was able to get one. Burnt.
There he is. That's a head coach of the Dolphins right there.
All right. Let's go on to the next game here. Cincinnati Bengals at the New Orleans Saints. Cincy in a close game against the Ravens last week. You've kind of been calling Jamar all year where he was drafted. I'm seeing a lot of Jamar trades, and they're really not getting too much value back, but it's based on his play. I can understand why people are trading for him and giving kind of lower players or vice versa in hopes that he will do something. Let's talk about this offense, though, when the Bengals, who we think they're going to be going to against this Saints defense, who's pretty good here and there. It really depends on the game, and it depends on how their offense does, to be honest with you. When they're not on the field as much, I feel that they play better. On the flip side, Taysom Hill just went crazy last week. Winston supposedly, possibly going to play. Michael Thomas is already out. Olave is getting closer, but they're not making a decision. It's a game time one. How does that affect the Saints offense? Are we seeing another Taysom Hill start as a tight end in a lot of different leagues and at different websites and stuff like that? And let's talk about who else we're playing from the Saints.
Yeah, as I mentioned last week in the big show, Saturday night, we did everything at once. I was starting Taysom Hill because I was just hoping I'd get at least 5 or 6 points and maybe get a blow up. I got a blow up, and I'm just going to roll with him because listen, I have no real better options, and anybody I put out there, their ceiling is 5 or 6 points. Like that's what I'd be praying for. Now. And I mentioned on the Tuesday show, I said, Taysom blew up. We'll see. This isn't going to happen probably ever again. Not like that. But you have a shot. The thing with him is he's getting the ball when they're close. And that's where a couple of his touchdowns have come from. He's also gotten the ball when they're far, and he busts them. It happened in week 1. And it happened last week a couple times. So, yeah, you play Taysom Hill because you can play him at tight end, and tight end's a wasteland unless you have Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce or Irv Smith this week because I think he scores 2 touchdowns. And George Kittle. George Kittle's going to blow up this week as well. We mentioned that in video 1. But, yeah, for the Saints, I think Olave's going to play. Thomas is out. Landry's out. So, I mean, he's what they got. As far as the Bengals go, I think Lattimore is banged up. Not even sure if Lattimore is going to play. And T. Higgins as well. Now, remember, the reason that I was not bullish, I think that's the term that fantasy analysts use, bullish and stock market traders, on Jamar Chase, where he was being drafted, was because there were 2 other good options there. Well, if T. Higgins doesn't play, there's one other good option. Now, he hasn't been doing that well because he's been getting double and triple teamed. And you could see that last week. I believe it was the night game. Was the Bengals a night game last week?
Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, and you could see it. So America got to see it. Like they're getting him the ball, but he's got 2 people on him at all times. I do like him this week again. I think they're going to continue to try and get him the ball. And if Lattimore is out, and even if he's not, he is out. Yeah. So Jamar Chase, I think this could be a very nice game for him. And Mixon's going to be tough. Mixon's been tough all year. Saints are still pretty decent against the run. But you got to play Mixon, especially week 6 with the injuries that we have. But I do think that, Andy Dalton is going to do what he did to Kamara, what I thought would happen 2 weeks ago, what I thought would happen last week. So it's Kamara, it's Hill, it's Olave. And for the Bengals, I'm fine with even Tyler Boyd. It's Boyd. And Hurst came through last week. I don't know if it's because he was juiced up playing against his old team, but he's viable. And especially if no T. Higgins, Hurst is fine. If you're a Hawkinson owner or something, he's on a bye for you this week.
I agree with Hurst, man. Sorry, I think he's good. He's getting enough targets to make him viable for the tight end option. Like you said, 5 or 6 points, 7 points, you're lucky. If you're getting anywhere close to 10 points, that's a fantastic day for a tight end. So,
yeah, one thing, the Saints, they got, what is New Orleans known for? The blues, right? Is that what I know it's voodoo and beignets, but the blues, right?
Yeah.
You know what goes good with blues?
No.
Funk.
Get the funk out of my face.
You know who the Saints signed this week? Jake Funk.
Oh, get the funk out of here.
Yeah, the Saints signed him. So I'm not sure if he'll play this week, but it was like the Rams were just very neglectful to use him. I'm not even sure if he is elevated to the roster, but I think he has to be because he was signed off the practice squad. And usually, when you sign somebody off of somebody else's practice squad, they go to your active roster. But I don't know if they have to be activated for the game. I think like once game time comes, you can inactivate them. I think that's what happened with Latavius Murray last week, right? Where they scooped him off the Saints, and then right before the game, they said, "Oh, inactive." So he's on the roster, but he'll go inactive possibly. But he's just a name to think about out there because Ingram, you say what you want, but they lost Murray. They got rid of Tony Jones Jr. Jake Funk's a hard runner for a little dude. And it'd be interesting to see if he amounts to anything, especially with Kamara's recent injury history, with the court cases looming. I think it'll be pushed to next year, but just an idea, a little blues and funk.
I like it. I like it. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. Again, Sunday Night Football, Baltimore, a very close game with Cincinnati. Lamar is really the guy. Andrews is definitely a start. J.K. Dobbins did play out better. One person that I picked up was Gus Edwards. The Baltimore backfield is just too packed, but I really think it could be Dobbins and Edwards if Edwards is healthy enough, and they can kind of get rid of the other guys. Justice Hill obviously would probably stay just because of age. Let's talk about that running situation as well as can we start any really wide receivers with Bateman out? Is Duvernay a good start? On the flip side, the Giants, again, coming off that win with Green Bay, I can't believe the NFC East has the three best teams in the NFC pretty much. But Barkley's running the offense. I mean, everything's going through him. Dobal is just literally adjusted this whole entire team around Barkley. Is there anybody else worth starting besides Barkley? Bellinger?
Yeah. You see a lot of these reports of like the Bills rumors of trading for Barkley. Listen, the Giants are not trading Barkley. If they were 1-3, 0-4, or whatever, 0-5, 1-4, whatever. Okay. They're sitting in first place, essentially. I mean, they're right behind the Eagles. They're sitting in second, tied with one game behind with Dallas, with one loss. They're not trading Barkley. It's not happening. So it's a lot of like Bills diehards. So like, oh, we're going to get Barkley. Oh, we're going to get Christian. You don't even need him because Josh Allen will just run over anybody. And if you don't want him to, then you have three running backs there. You hardly use one of them. Yeah, it's a name coming there, but we saw experiments like this in Philadelphia. Yes, it worked for Tampa Bay 1 year, but I said it on the air that I feel like they got really lucky that year. Not only beating Green Bay, but then getting and winning in the Super Bowl against Mahomes, right? He was injured. So it's like, you can't look at what LeBron tries to do with my beloved Lakers. I wish he would just leave. You can't just bring these guys in and just think it's stick with what you have. You're not getting Barkley. Barkley is the Giants. And this week, the Giants hopefully will get to see for a full game and not just one play. Wandale, Mr. Wandale. They need him. Slayton came through last week. Sills and Richie James is the answer. I love what our homeboy Jeremy had to say in the group chat for the ABG League. That would have been so great to say. I'm Richie James, bitch.
That was good. That was definitely good. Good one, Jeremy.
Yeah. No, it was great. As I mentioned, I feel like that's the greatest episode of television in the history of cable TV ever. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he made a comment. I think it was about us aging ourselves. I really don't care because no matter if you're 15 years old, I'm going to put it there, 15 years old or 50 years old. If you have not seen the Dave Chappelle, Rick James episode, do it now. No matter how you have to rent the DVD, dust off the DVD player, find somewhere that streams it, maybe Netflix, because they have the deal with Chappelle. Maybe they have the Chappelle show. I don't even know. But you need to watch that episode. It is. I remember watching it live, and I was in college, and it was Wednesday night. I think Chappelle show came on. We lived in a house, There was three of us guys, and upstairs in the upstairs of the house, three girls lived. They'd come down, we'd drink and whatever, college. We watch shows. And I think that we would watch like 24 or something. And it was on at 9. And then Chappelle Show came on at 10. So it was just like this huge thing. We would cook dinner and whatever. I'm telling you, that night just had us rolling. And it was right around when DVRs were coming out. We watched that episode probably 3 times in a row.
Nice.
It's absolutely amazing. So whatever, we're on a long tangent here. My bad. So Saquon, yes, Wandale, you're a week away from starting him. But it's the Ravens' pass defense, and you can score on them. You can throw on them. We'll see if they do it. They have serviceable guys. Slayton, like I said, he showed up. I wouldn't use anybody as far as the receivers go. Bellinger, if you're in a pinch, he didn't do much last week, but he ran a touchdown in. You can't count on that. He's not Taysom Hill. As far as the Ravens go, Duvernay looked so amazing to me. But then you look at his final stat line, and it wasn't anything really to write home about. But when he had the ball in his hands, especially early on in the game, I was like, oh my gosh, this dude is electric. They were giving the ball behind the line. He was taking end arounds. He was catching screens. He was going down the field. Every single time he touched the ball, he was slipping tackles, greasing past people. So you might have something if you scooped him, because Bateman's out again. And Lamar, I hope he does really, really well. I'm a tad bit nervous against the Giants. The defense is playing out of their mind. Did not think the Giants' defense would be this good, but like you said, Daboll's got them going in the direction that they got to go. So I think Duvernay, if you're in a pinch, Andrews, of course. You had mentioned Gus Edwards. Has he been activated?
He's been designated to come back from the pup, but he hasn't been activated yet. They're saying that he's getting closer and closer, so they could activate him for this week. I don't think you're going to see him this week. That's why I'm picking him up now, because I think it's going to be more next week. That's when they'll start getting him more involved, because if they don't do it by week 8, I want to say he's out for the year.
So he's practiced.
He's practiced, yeah.
All right, well, Justice Hill's banged up, so you might see him this week. He's the goal line short yardage guy. That's going to take a little bit of the load off of Lamar, which I think would be good for the long season. But, yeah, I think that's a good call. Dobbins did look a little bit better last week. They still have 12 running backs. I guess Dobbins is worth a start because of all the injuries and the bye weeks. There's some good running backs on bye this week, and there's some good running backs that are injured. I just wouldn't expect it too much, especially if Gus Edwards plays, because if they get close, it's Andrews, Lamar, or Gus.
That's true. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Tampa Bay Bucks at Pittsburgh Steelers. As mentioned before, the Bucks were in a close game against Atlanta. Could have went either way if they got the ball back. But Tom Brady, I thought he was going to destroy Atlanta. I thought he was going to come out firing. Didn't see that kind of gusto. Fournette still doing well, but I'm playing a Godwin. I'm playing an Evans, I'm assuming. Is your boy, the tight end, I can't think of his name, the rookie, Otten. Is Otten worth the start in a tight end position this week? As far as the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got destroyed by the Bills last week. They didn't look horrible. Obviously, the score shows differently, but Pickett actually played okay. Najee has me worried as hell. I don't think they're giving him the ball as much as they should. Freiermuth banged up. What are you playing from the Steelers?
Yeah, as far as Pittsburgh, I mean, the game got out of control early. I mean, when you open the game with a 98-yard bomb for a touchdown, and then another one right after that relatively quickly, and you're down a couple scores, it's like, okay, so now what do we do? And Pittsburgh got close a couple times, and it didn't work out. A few turnovers on downs and whatnot. At home against Bucks defense, I feel like this entire Tampa Bay team, I feel like they are, I don't want to say like a cliche thing. They're not living out a dream. It's like they're living out a lie. Like, I just have this sort of feeling, and last week was what sort of really brought it to a revelation for me. It's like, this isn't the 2020 or 21 or whatever it was, 2020 Bucks. And like I said, even they got lucky in my mind. They weren't great in the beginning of the year. They almost lost in the playoffs to Washington. Then they got lucky against Green Bay. Then they got lucky in the Super Bowl. I feel like that they're just living a lie. The defense has played really well, but have they really? The offense, they've been down all their players, but last week when they had all their players, did they really look good? We talked about in the intro of the first game, when we were talking about Atlanta, like Atlanta should have won that one. So I have like a weird feeling, and I know I kind of thought this last week, that Pittsburgh could keep this close. But I think because the Pittsburgh defense is so banged up and the rookie quarterback could make a couple mistakes because the Bucks secondary is still pretty good, that the Bucks should win this one. It could be double digit type of thing. Um, so if it goes the way it should and the way I hope, and this is why I don't know if this is more with my heart or more with my head. We always say with fantasy, you got to be more with your head than with your heart. With my heart, but it's also a little my head. I feel like Rashad White could have a game, and that's why I'm playing him over like an Algier in our big league, Rob, and fantasize, because I feel like the Bucks should be able to get up big. I'm worried that maybe they're not as good as we all think they are, but if they do get up big, Rashad White will get a lot of burn because they'll want to preserve Fournette. If they get up by a couple touchdowns, it gets in the third quarter, and they have the game in control, and they're just sort of slowing down Pittsburgh every single time. Put Rashad White in the game. So, like, he's an absolute prayer. And I'm putting him in there because whatever. I mean, I'll take the prayer and hope that the game flow goes my way, because Algier, while I like him, I don't like the matchup, even against the injured defensive front of San Francisco. So I'm just taking a shot that I get a few catches in the first half if the game's close, and if they blow them out, like in the beginning, if the game's close, I feel like they'll use Rashad White to catch some passes. If they blow them out, I feel like they'll use a lot of Rashad White. If it's close towards the end, they'll still be using Rashad White. So it's like he's not getting a ton of burn, but against this Pittsburgh defense, he could get used. So I feel like he's got, I don't know, going on another tangent. Got to stop this.
I was going to say you're living on a prayer. Oh,
I don't want to be living a lie. I like Mike Evans this week. I think Chris Godwin's going to have a nice game. As far as Kate Otten goes, I want to see, now that he has solidified himself as viable in the NFL, Great is back.
Mm-hmm.
Will they use them both at the same time? Will they use a 50-50 split? So it's like you could take a shot with Ott, but Great is still there. And this game's going to tell. If you want to scoop Otten now and just sort of hold on to him, because he could surpass Cameron Brate. We all know what Cameron Brate is. He's virtually nothing. So it's worth a shot. Would not play him, but it's worth a shot. Pittsburgh doesn't have Freiermuth. He's not playing. Wouldn't surprise me if Chase Claypool does something again, because it seemed like Claypool got some extra catches last year when Freiermuth went out. So it's almost like he became their pseudo tight end, their guy for the short ones and whatnot over the middle. So we'll see if that continues. Pickens is the man. Deontay's the best one there, but Pickens gets the love. And that's pretty much how it goes. The whole Najee Warren thing, this game's going to be telling. It's very tough against the Bucks rush defense, but they're saying they're going to keep using Warren more and more and more. But if you have Najee and he was your first pick and you got nothing else, and the injuries and the buys, you got to roll with them. But I'm glad I'm not in those shoes.
I am in those shoes, and I picked up DJ Dallas in hopes going against an Arizona team. We'll get into that game. I have Pollard. Pierce is out on me this week. So I'm kind of in an iffy spot. I don't want to start Najee, but can I not start Najee and actually play DJ Dallas? I think Walker's going to be the guy. So, I mean, we'll get into that game later, but
Yeah, that's the thing.
stuck
It's
between a
like
rock and a hard place.
that's the thing, and like I feel like at this point, a DJ Dallas who hasn't done too much, played a lot of special teams. He splashed a few times last year. I believe the year before, I think 2020 was his rookie season. I believe he came in the same year as Burrow. But he's never really been anything too great. But with Homer out, he catch passes, and it's an easier matchup. But do you really want to take that flyer when you have a relatively healthy Najee? All he's got to do is bust one. I feel like you
He
could
gets the
have
ball enough.
like that's what I'm saying. You could have DJ Dallas involved all game long. Third downs. If you get return yardage, he's returning punts or kicks. He could get a few runs, get you a few first downs. He could get 8 or 9 points for you. If you get lucky, you get a touchdown. You're up to 15. Najee Harris could get that on one play if he just happens to break one.
And Najee's the type of runner. Yeah, he's the type of runner that you always say that if you go against Tampa Bay, you punch him in the mouth. Let's hope you can punch him in the mouth.
He's yet to break one, so I think you have to go with him because if you're going to win this game, whether or not Tampa Bay is living a lie and they're really not as good as the whole world thinks they are, you have to play smart against them. And you have to keep your quarterback out of trouble. You can't just drop back and chuck the ball. You've got to use your running back. So they're going to have to go on this with a smart, control the clock, control the ball game plan. That's use your first round pick, Najee Harris, to do that.
All right, let's go on to this last game here. Carolina Panthers at the Los Angeles Rams. Matt Rule got fired this week. Baker's out. It seems it's going to be PJ Walker because Sam Darnold isn't cleared yet. How does that affect anything and everything with this Carolina Panthers? Obviously, I think you have to start CMC, but he's kind of banged up too. DJ Moore, could this be – we always talk about backups, how backups need the backups to be able to help the backups and so on and so on. Could this be like a Shi Smith kind of game or an Ian Thomas kind of game, Tommy Tremble to be able to get some catches? Obviously, you're not starting those guys, but could that, if PJ Walker does end up staying the quarterback, could those guys be viable? On the flip side, I don't know what the hell's going on with the Rams. It's Cooper Kupp, it's Higbee. The running game, Akers, I think you posted, I think I read it too, got into some type of scuffle or something like that with coaches today, gone for personal reasons, out already. Akers was a third-round pick, man. Droppable?
No, not droppable because I think at the very worst he gets traded. There's a lot of teams out there that
can end somewhere.
There's a lot of teams. Listen, I'm not confident that Javonte Williams ever plays football again. They said there was like the worst injury or one of the worst knee injuries they've ever seen. So like Denver Broncos, you could be a trade partner because
I hate to say Seattle too, man.
Yeah, you could use a fresh pair of legs in Denver. Melvin Gordon. He was good 4 years ago. It's okay, but he's not Javonte. And you know what? He honestly might not even be Akers. Their offensive lines had a lot of issues. Ask Matt Stafford. The reason the Rams have looked so terrible, it's not Stafford, it's not Akers. It might be Allen Robinson, but it's their offensive line. It hasn't been making holes. It hasn't been protecting Stafford. Luckily for them, the Carolina defense, they're like the wind. They come and they go. They come and they go. Like what's that? The Boy George song, or whatever. the Cure. They come and go. Karma Chameleon. That's what that was.
Chameleon.
I honestly, you would think they would be better without Baker the way Baker's played. But the honest truth, you could hate Baker, you could like Baker, you could love him like I do. Some of the plays and throws he made were terrible, but how many dropped passes are we going to let his receivers get away with? I mean, it happened in Cleveland all the time. So you say whatever you want to say about the relationship with him and Odell. Did he have some bad throws to Odell? Yes. Did Odell drop a ton of passes? Yes. Did DJ Moore drop passes last week? Yes. Did all the wide receivers drop passes? Yes. They better be able to catch the ball. Luckily for this one, they get PJ Walker, who's a little more mobile than Baker. I think he's going to use those legs. I think his legs are going to have to keep them a little honest with his arm. I think DJ Moore's going to probably have a pretty good game. I would use DJ Moore in this one. Is Ramsey banged up? Did I hear that correctly as well? I think he might be. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think he might be. But CMC, I like DJ Moore. There's not really much I can trust. Robbie Anderson's banged up, and you don't want to play him anywhere. You had mentioned Shi Smith. He's sort of been involved. Laviska is like, no, we don't even know if he's going to play either. These guys, I don't think you have to dive that deep with Shi Smith. But for the Rams, everybody's going out. Darrell Henderson, put him in DFS lineups, yada, yada. Okay, Panthers defense at home. Got to run the ball. Got to protect Matt Stafford. That's fine. But they signed Malcolm Brown a week or two ago. And I had mentioned this in the ABG group chat. Malcolm Brown was like McVay's favorite player ever. There was a time when I feel like we wanted Darrell Henderson to be the running back, or they had somebody else there as well. And I can't remember who it was, but it was a couple years ago. It was before Akers. And we're like, get this guy the ball, but yet they kept using Malcolm Brown. Malcolm
Gurley.
Brown was it Gurley?
Yeah, I think it was the last year of Gurley, if I'm not mistaken.
And even with Gurley, when he was good, it was like he would get close and Malcolm Brown would come in the game. He's a goal line touchdown vulture. So while shallow leagues, people are going out and scooping Darrell Henderson, if you're watching this video right now, go grab yourself a Malcolm Brown, because if they do trade Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown's going to be your goal line back. They do have the rookie there. They got a couple of rookies there. One's coming off the IR, Kyron Williams, I believe. And they might activate him this game, probably more so next week. But I think that Malcolm Brown is going to be a thorn in Darrell Williams. Why am I saying Darrell Williams? Henderson,
yeah.
I know. Why am I saying Williams? It's late. I mean, when I make the mistake with it, I meant to say Elijah Moore instead of Elijah Mitchell. Darrell Henderson. People are going out and getting Darrell Henderson, not Williams. But I think Malcolm Brown is going to steal a couple touchdowns. And you know what? I picked him up, so I'm hoping it happens. They have a bye week next week, but I only picked him up because somebody dropped him, and there's nobody on the waiver wire. It's a 14-man league with the extra roster position, and I didn't know if Olave would play. So I picked up Allen Robinson. You know, this could be a pretty good matchup for him. I wouldn't play him unless you absolutely had to, but we'll see. I mean, some of it's his fault. I'd say 75% of it is Allen Robinson's fault. He looks like a mummy. He's almost AJ Green to me at this point. AJ Green is full mummy. You never go full mummy.
Full mummy.
He has, and Allen Robinson's right there. But you know, this Panthers secondary they come and go, man. They come and go. But I'm just saying, Darrell Henderson is who people are going to go nuts after this one. Would not surprise me if Malcolm Brown is active, if he steals every single goal line carry away from him and screws Henderson owners this week.
Wouldn't surprise me either. Good call, bud. All right, remember, like us, follow us, subscribe, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Patreon. Always look for those hashtags. We'll be back with episode number 3 for week 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
Next week, I need to remember to get a Red Bull.
Gives you wings. Gives you wings. All right.